Hey everybody, Kristen here. As you know, I believe homemade is best, but it doesn't need to be complicated. And today I'm going to share with you the easiest way to make the most delicious, flavorful beef stew you've ever had using the Instant Pot. So let's break this down. We're going to start by hitting saute on our Instant Pot so that we can saute up our beef here. I'm going to add in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. While the oil is heating, let's talk about our beef here. You can use stew meat, you can use a chuck roast, you can use a bottom round roast, any kind of beef roast that you have, and you want to cube it into about 2-inch pieces. Then you want to season it up liberally on both sides with salt and pepper to build those layers of flavor. Now that our oil's heated, let's add our beef. Try to add it in a single layer so that it gets nice and caramelized on all the sides. I'm also going to add in 1 yellow onion that's been finely minced to saute that up with our beef there. Let that sit for a minute and get nice and golden and the onion begin to soften. Our meat is looking just about brown there, so I'm going to add in about 3 cloves of minced garlic and just saute that briefly, just to let our garlic toast. We don't want to burn our garlic there. Okay, to deglaze this pot, I'm gonna add in a 1/2 cup of dry red wine. This is a red blend, a Merlot, a Cab, a Pinot Noir would all work well. And even though the alcohol will evaporate and cook off, if you're opposed to cooking with wine, you can certainly use additional beef stock. Regardless, you want to add in some stock or wine and scrape up any brown bits on the bottom of the inner pot to prevent a burn notice. And then we're just gonna let this wine cook and bubble here for just a little bit to reduce and intensify in flavor. Okay, that's looking good, so we're gonna hit cancel on the Instant Pot to turn off the saute function, and now we're gonna build the rest of our stew here. So I'm gonna add in 3 cups of low sodium beef stock. If you like a thinner beef stew, you could use the full 4 cups here. I like my stew a little bit thicker, so I'm gonna use 3 cups. These are 4 cups in here, so instead of wasting the extra cup that I have left, I'll use it later this week to add to rice, or you can freeze it and use it later. I'm also going to add in about a 1/2 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. Just really adds a lot of depth to the beef stew and just makes the beef sing with flavor. And then I'm gonna add in a pinch of salt and pepper. Even though we've seasoned up our beef, we wanna build those layers of flavor there. So I have some kosher salt and black pepper. I recommend using kosher salt. It just really enhances the flavor versus making the dish taste overly salty. I also have 1 dried bay leaf and about 1 teaspoon of dried thyme. And a tip here is just to crush the dried herbs in your hands and then add that to the stew. It'll kind of release its natural oils and bring it back to life. You could certainly use 2 stalks of fresh thyme if you had that on hand as well. And then my secret ingredient, horseradish, prepared horseradish. Just like I add this to my famous pot roast, I add about a tablespoon to my beef stew. It's just grated horseradish in vinegar and salt. There's no other added ingredients in this. It's not horseradish sauce, but what this horseradish does is it helps to tenderize the beef and just give it an insanely delicious flavor. Even if you think you don't like horseradish, don't be afraid to try a little bit in your beef stew or with your pot roast. It just elevates the dish to something incredibly memorable. I can't stress how delicious it makes beef dishes. Then to this, I'm gonna add in some veggies. I have about 3 large carrots that have been just scrubbed clean. You don't need to peel them. You can certainly peel them if you want to, but you don't need to as long as you wash them. And then I've cut them into about 1.5 to 2-inch chunks there. This is 2 cups or about 3 large carrots. And then for the potatoes, you can use Yukon Gold potatoes, you could use russet potatoes, you could use red potatoes. I just used what I had on hand this week, which is red potatoes. I'll be honest, I prefer Yukon Gold. They're so buttery in the stew, but red potatoes are delicious as well. Again, you just want to scrub them and then cut them into about 2-inch chunks. These were small red potatoes, so I quartered them. Baby potatoes you would cut in half, larger potatoes cut into 2-inch chunks there. We want them on the larger side so they won't overcook as the stew cooks. We're gonna give that a stir there. And then we're gonna top this with 8 ounces of crushed tomatoes. That's just going to build delicious flavor in the soup, but we wanna add our tomatoes on top so that a burn notice won't occur. It's okay if they sink down a little bit, but adding it to the top and stirring it in after pressure cooks will help prevent a burn notice, as tomatoes can be a little bit finicky when it comes to pressure cookers. That's it. We're gonna pop our lid on our Instant Pot. Make sure your venting knob is sealed. And then to set the cooking time, you're gonna cook for 30 minutes on high pressure. Don't be tempted to use the beef or stew button, control the pressure yourself. After the cooking time has elapsed, let pressure release naturally on its own or for at least 15 minutes, and that'll keep the beef super tender. Then you can open up your Instant Pot. It smells so good in here, and at this point, you can dish this up. It's gonna be like a thick beef soup, so to speak. But if you'd like to thicken it up a little bit more so that it has more of a traditional texture of a beef stew, what you're gonna do is take 3 tablespoons of water and add in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. We're just making a cornstarch slurry here. Dissolve that cornstarch into the water. And actually, we wanna turn our Instant Pot to Sauté. Hit cancel to turn off the keep warm function and then hit Sauté. We're just gonna let this come to a little bit of a bubble here. It is not necessary to thicken your beef stew. This is optional. Okay, so I'm gonna add my cornstarch slurry right inside the inner pot there. And then you just wanna stir this every little bit until it's nice and thickened. It won't take but 3 to 5 minutes at most. And then you can dish up your stew here. It's nice and thickened and glossy. All right, I'm gonna go in for a bite. Small bite to start because it's pretty hot still. It's so perfect. The broth is perfectly seasoned. I get a little bit of undertones of the wine and the Worcestershire, and the horseradish just brings everything together. It's simple, but it's elevated, and it's absolute pure comfort food. If you're looking for another delicious recipe that uses these similar ingredients, be sure to check out my next recipe where I share with you how to make Instant Pot pot roast with potatoes and carrots. Until next time, happy cooking.